He lost rounds to Pitbull Cruz, he lost rounds to Ryan Garcia, and I think he'll lose rounds to Lomachenko. I do think that Lomachenko may be a little bit too war-torn now to survive 12 rounds with Gervonta. But it's a competitive fight. You know, Loma's got a great boxing brain. And like I said, I think Tank will lose rounds to Lomachenko. It's just a case of if he can get hold of him before the closing stretch. I think he would. But yeah, I think it's a solid fight.
Yeah. Do you think Loma can actually pull it out in that fight, or do you think it's too...
I mean, if you know, like I said, he's going to win rounds. You know, there's probably after 6 rounds he's going to be ahead. Maybe after 10 rounds he's going to be ahead. So I think if the fight went the distance, I would favour Lomachenko in that fight. I just don't think it does.
There you go. Last question for you, Eddie. Ryan Garcia recently banned by the WBC for his use of some disparaging commentary. What do you think about that?
Yeah, look, you know, I mean, everybody's seen it all unfold, haven't they, before their eyes. So my opinion doesn't really matter. I like Ryan Garcia. I think he's got a good heart, but clearly he's going through some very tough times at the moment. He's making a lot of mistakes. You know, it looks like people around him are trying to help, although you hear other people are trying to make exhibitions and all sorts. Like, the kid needs help, you know, and it's not something that can be solved via a training camp. So hopefully he can get the help that he needs. He can get back to himself and the behaviour that we expect from Ryan Garcia. And, you know, he's a great fighter. And the quicker that he can come off social media and get himself some actual help, the better.
There you go. Well, Eddie, thank you for your time. We look forward to a great card this weekend in Philadelphia. Jerome Boots Ennis versus David Avanesian. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Fight Hype, we out.
What's going on, Eddie? You just signed a young Jaleel Hackett, man. And you
just go down the line, basically.
You just signed a young Jaleel Hackett, and he's looking to put on a great show. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, look, I love the fight. I mean, I knew about Jaleel Hackett before we signed him. Kevin Rooney, our guy, you know, he said, look, there's a very, very good kid from DC, Jaleel Hackett. People are talking about him as the next this, the next that. He's 21. And he wants a real fight. Like he said, he'll sign with us and he'll take a real fight straight away. So, like, for me, when you're making an investment in a young fighter, to see him step up and fight a Pete Dobson straight off the bat in his 9th fight, I love it. But I think it's a very, very risky fight. Like, Dobson, I think, actually gained a lot of confidence out of the Conor Benn fight because he realised that actually he can mix at that level. He lost most rounds, but he was competitive, his defence was good, and I think if he's more aggressive in this fight, he could have success. So I love it. I think it's a 50-50 fight.
So what do you think about the face-off?
Perfect. I mean, no, like, you guys want, the fans want, that kind of chat, that kind of interaction. You know, it wasn't overly disrespectful, it was funny, it was competitive, and I think, you know, you've got a 21-year-old kid there that's about to walk out in front of 14,000 people on Saturday night in a massive test. Like, it's not just is he good enough, is he ready for that kind of experience? And he could unfold and unravel real quick if he gets it wrong. And that's why I love the fight.
Jaleel stops Peter Dobson, what's next?
It's a massive statement. I mean, look, Dobson's not a top 10 in the world guy, but he's a very, very good fighter. You know, he's a fringe world level guy. And you know, the momentum for Hackett would be incredible because of the platform that he's fighting on.
Is Saturday night the return to consistent, big-time boxing to Philadelphia, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, I've been obviously pleasantly surprised, but I think astonished is a strong word, but maybe with the size of the crowd on Saturday. You know, we were talking about going to the Liacouras Centre. People said, you know, this could do 5,000, 6,000. I said, no, let's go to the big one. You know, and to do 13,000. I mean, also, like, right now we're sitting at around 12,000. Like, you've got a situation where you've got a ball game on Saturday that finishes at 7 p.m. Like, the momentum, you always do 1,000 on fight day, 500, 800, you know what I mean? So coming off the ball game, coming off the momentum of this city, we're already like to here, we're opening the top tier. We're going to be selling backwards. There's still tickets available from $30. I can't remember. It reminds me a little bit of when we did Haney Prograde, but that was a bigger fight than Ennis against Avanesian. So, you know, if we're doing 13,000, 14,000 for Ennis Avanesian, imagine what we can do for Barrios or for Stanionis in a big unification. So the key, like, if Boots gets this performance right on Saturday, we've hit the jackpot in this city.
Obviously, when you signed Boots, you knew you were signing, a worldly talent, an unbelievable talent. Did you expect this? All this that came along with it?
Because he hasn't boxed for 5 years. People will say, yeah, great promotion, and yeah, it has been. But also, it's not rocket science. Boots is from Philadelphia. He's one of the best fighters in the world. Right? Philadelphia has a great history of boxing, going back away from the Rocky Balboa films, Talk about big names, big fight nights here. You got a ballpark there, you got a football field there. Like, I don't understand why, like, how people have not brought this kid to Philadelphia in the last 5 years, especially when he won a world title. So it's madness, and I just can't wait to see his face when he walks through the curtain on Saturday.
As someone who's been working Philly boxing for 23 years, I agree with you. I can't believe that.
But
it
doesn't always work out like that. Other people have bought, I know, Danny Garcia or Hopkins here, and it just, hasn't really worked. So I can't put a finger on what it is, but what I do know is, one, he's one of the best fighters in the world, so you're not just coming out to support a local fighter. And two, he's a good kid, right? Good role model, good boxing family, dedicated their life to the sport. And I think when people understand that story, they'll get behind him even more.
It's real quickly, Dubois Joshua.
Good fight, dangerous fight. I mean, I make AJ the favourite in the fight, but at the same time, we know it's a dangerous fight. Two big punchers for the world heavyweight title in front of probably what will be 100,000 at Wembley. So we can't wait.
Eddie, you have Crawford versus Madrimov August 3rd. This is Terence Crawford's first fight at 154 pounds. Madrimov looks like a tough task.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think about
Banana skin. That's what I think. I mean, look, Crawford's obviously the favourite in that fight, but Madrimov's very good. Like, you're not just talking about strong Eastern, Avanesian is a really strong Eastern European fighter, right? Madrimov is a really strong Eastern European fighter with great movement, with great ring IQ. Do you know what I mean? With a tremendous engine. Like, he was an outstanding amateur as well. So for me, I'm looking at it and saying, I think this is a banana skin for Terence Crawford. Favourite in the fight, but Madrimov, and moving up to 154. How do you like the power? How do you like the size difference? Of course, like I said, you make Terence Crawford the favourite, but, big banana skin August 3rd.
Now, if Crawford is successful, Jaron Ennis is on record saying he wants that fight. What does he have to do as far as promotion-wise with selling out?
Just perform. Like, promotion-wise, that's done. We take care of that. Like you'll see on Saturday. But performance. If he goes in on Saturday, doesn't perform, squeaks out a victory, not a big problem, but big disappointment. If he goes in, looks sensational, knocks out Avanesian inside 4 rounds, the place goes nuts, it's about momentum. Do you know what I mean? So look, for me, I think one of the best fights in boxing, one of the purest fights in boxing, is Crawford against Boots, right? But we want to take care of business at 147. Like, I feel like we need to unify. We need those tough tests. And having done a huge gate here on Saturday, I know that we can fill the whole place up against the likes of Barrios, against the likes of Stanionis, and that's what we've got to do before we move to 154. But if Crawford is successful, for me that's a dream fight, not just as Boots' promoter, but for boxing.
Has Crawford actually said that he want that fight? The Boots
I don't think
fight?
so. No, I don't think he would want that fight. He will probably say, what's in it for me, that fight? And the answer is hopefully a lot of money. Look, Crawford's a brilliant fighter. Like, I'm sure he's not afraid of it, and I'm sure he believes he beats Jaron Ennis. But also, Bomac, Crawford, they're also incredibly knowledgeable boxing people, and they know how good Ennis is. Like, they know. I think that's the toughest fight out there for him. And I don't think they'll be queuing up for it. But once the demand is there, and once someone like His Excellency says, "I want to make that fight," I'm sure they'll take the fight.
How much pressure are you, with the spectacular performance, how much pressure are you willing to put on Terence Crawford to make that fight?
Well, nothing, because I think he gets beat on August 3rd. But we'll discuss it after August 3rd. If he manages to get by Israel Madrimov, then of course we're going to be chasing him down. I mean, don't forget, Terence Crawford's first ever World Championship fight was on my show in Scotland. He beat Ricky Burns to become World Lightweight Champion. So, and if he beats Madrimov, then Crawford would have dethroned another Matchroom World Champion. So I won't stop till we get him. And I believe we can get him with Boots.
The 147, kind of a weird spot right now. We're looking at Manny Pacquiao potentially facing Mario Barrios. What do you think of that fight?
Yeah, I think that, it's a very contentious subject. Like, people moaning about Manny Pacquiao. I think Manny Pacquiao is still good enough to beat most fighters in the top 20 at 147 pounds. He's clearly not the fighter that he once was. You're not going to be at that age. My problem is that he's been inactive for quite a long time. Like we were talking about fighting him with Conor Benn maybe 6 months ago or a year, and every month or 3 months or 6 months that passes, you do become a lot older. So, you know, I guess there's two questions. One is, should he be fighting again? And at the end of the day, if he's good enough to beat everybody outside of the top 20 in the world, then why not? But should he be fighting for the world title? I guess that's another question. In the commercial world of boxing, the answer is yeah, probably. In the ratings world and activity world, the answer is probably not.
Do you think it's strange that he's coming off the couch and getting a title fight like that?
I think when you've achieved what he's achieved, you've always got the right to do things a little bit differently to others. And with all due respect, Barrios is not Boots, and Barrios is not Crawford. You know, and that's why, you know, we pushed the Conor Benn fight. Conor Benn, like, his best win is against Algieri or Van Heerden. So actually Pacquiao is a step up, you know, and people were still complaining at me for mentioning that fight, like Conor Benn is Boots, you know, but he still hasn't had those wins yet. So, you know, I like to see great fighters just slowly fade out of the sport, but also at the same time, if they feel good, if they feel they can be competitive, and there's a lot of money to be made, I also get it.
People have been calling the Shakur fight an audition for you. Are you in talks with Shakur Stevenson?
He's coming on Saturday. I mean, listen, I can't. I mean, I've done a much better job than Top Rank in promoting him over the last 12 months. I don't even have a contract with him because I answer questions from you guys, and I say the same thing all the time. I think he's a pound for pound great fighter. I think he's one of the best fighters in the sport. You know, he had a good crowd in Newark. He just drew the biggest audience on ESPN of 2024. And people still like to criticise. He's not Arturo Gatti. He's not going to go in there with his chin in the air and give you a war every time. But when he's in with elite opposition, you're going to see some of the best fights in boxing. For me, I think he should fight William Zepeda. I think that's a really good fight. Like, Zepeda is with the zone. He's all action. And you know, that's a fight that I would be talking to him about. But also, you know, do you really want to sign, this is not me, this is a question for him, a 5-fight deal when it may stop you from getting certain fights? Like, we're seeing a lot of promoters working together more now, particularly with Riyadh season and his excellency. But, you know, I think Shakur is probably thinking to himself, I have to fight Tank, I have to fight Zepeda, I have to fight Lopez, I have to fight all these guys. And maybe our discussions are a 1 fight or a 2 fight or a 3 fight, I don't know. But I think he needs that fluidity to be able to move and make those fights, because that's when you're going to see the best of him. And every time he's in with a, whatever that bloke's name was, Havosian or whatever his name was, it's just not like, those guys can't beat him, they can't be competitive against him. And like it's almost like he looked bored in there on Saturday. I mean, he was going forward because everybody wants him to go forward, so he was making a few mistakes, never, like, I mean, won nearly every round. Like, he's that good, he's really, really good. And against a Zepeda, you'll probably see a different type of performance.
If Shakur Stevenson signs with Matchroom Boxing, let's say a 3-fight deal, ideally, what would be the 3 fights that you would get?
William Zepeda, maybe a move to 140 to fight a Liam Paro, you know, or another champion at 140. You know, and then look to other companies to do a co-promotional deal and a co-platform deal. You know, you've seen DAZN, you know, airing Munguia against Canelo Alvarez. You've seen DAZN airing all the Riyadh season events as well. So there's no reason why we can't go to Amazon and Al Heyman and say, do you want to do Shakur against Tank? And by the way, maybe we have something in our contract that says we don't even have to be involved in that fight. Because I don't want Shakur to not get those fights and those opportunities just because of some kind of promotional dispute or ego. But people are working together more now. It really will come down to Tank and PBC if they want the Shakur Stevenson fight, because that is a very, very, very risky fight for Tank, and he has to come through Lomachenko first. But you're seeing promotional companies work with each other, so I don't see that as a problem.
You were quoted saying that you're not going to pay him what Bob paying. Are you still standing on that?
No, I said that to Bob.
Okay.
You know, Bob said to me something like about Shakur. I went, I'll tell you what, Bob, I'm not paying him what you pay him. And it was a tongue-in-cheek comment, and I'll have to pay him what Bob paid. I mean, he's not going to come, you know, he knows I'm a better promoter, he knows it's better for his career, but he's not going to take less money. But he needs to buy into the plan, right? Because there's a lot of work to be done on Shakur Stevenson. At the moment, it's Shakur against the world. You know, he's fighting all his battles on his own, on Twitter. He's putting out all the fires, you know, and the reality is that's draining, that's painful, that's difficult, and it's like it's not a good look and a good plan. So he needs a promotional machine behind him, not just me, but a company, because Top Rank gave up on him a year ago. So, you know, he needs to calm on social media, get me doing the talking for him, get the promotional machine working while he's sleeping, and get in the gym and go and beat these guys.
There's still publicity, so that's a good
Yeah,
thing.
no, listen, he's the most talked about fighter in the world
Yes.
right now. as
Shakur
of
versus
today.
Tank, who wins?
See, the thing is with Tank, who I think is a brilliant fighter, right? So exciting, very heavy-handed. He loses a lot of rounds, right? He lost rounds against Frank Martin. He lost rounds against Ryan Garcia. He lost rounds against Pitbull Cruz. And these are all guys that aren't on the same level as Lomachenko and Shakur Stevenson. So he has to put a dent in these people, otherwise he'll get beat. But he does put a dent in them because he punches really hard, and Tank's not just a puncher, he's got a good boxing IQ as well. I just don't think he's technically, or the IQ is as good as Lomachenko or as good as Shakur Stevenson. But can he put a dent in them? Because I promise you this, if he don't stop these people, he will be behind at nearly every junction of those fights, Lomachenko included. I think he stops Lomachenko, but he'll be behind. Do you know what I mean? That's what makes him exciting.
Jerron Ennis wants to unify. You want him to unify. You said the promoters are starting to work together. What order would you want those fights in?
I like the Barrios fight because I think, you know, Mexican comes to fight. You know, Stanionis doesn't quite have the profile, but again, like after what you'll see on Saturday, if the performance is great, we know that we can fill it. But all these guys, you know, it's gone from 147 with a load of high-profile champions to really Boots is their payday. Like, what are the other paydays for Barrios? Maybe Pacquiao, but who even knows that'll happen? And Stanionis. There's no paydays out there because there's no big names at 147. Jerron Ennis is the big name at 147. He's the big draw at 147. So we got to get the money together to bring them to Philadelphia.
If you can't get a unification bout, does a bout with Conor Ben, maybe in South,
for
it
sure.
makes sense?
Yeah, I mean, in London, here, London, you know, Conor's going to want to challenge for the world title, and we don't rule that out. Right, guys?
Thanks, Eddie.
Thank you.
Insight on what kind of